2-minute recap from the Huskies Warming House podcast, and also a 2-minute preview from the Huskies Warming House podcast. That's going to be a lot longer than 2 minutes apiece. I'm Noah Grant, joined alongside my co-host Nick Maxon. Nick, we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into what happened here in the first game of the regional tournament for St. Cloud State, and kind of address a little bit about what that means going into tomorrow's matchup against Boston College. To take viewers through this game against Boston University this afternoon, early afternoon game on the East Coast, a 6-2 final for the St. Cloud State Huskies over Boston University. But how we got there was something very, very interesting. Starting off about 8 to 10 minutes into the first period, we've got Sam Henches hitting the crossbar. That is probably about the least interesting thing in this entire foray of what happened in this game. Next, a 5-minute major for Dylan Peterson of Boston University for checking from behind, and the Huskies have 9 ensuing shots on this power play. Can't find a way past Drew Comesso, the Chicago Blackhawks second-round draft pick from BU, stood on his head. 8 seconds into period number 2, Wilmer Skoog, who I had the pleasure of seeing him score a Mike Legg Michigan goal, actually with the Minot Minotauros a couple years ago when he was in the NAHL. He scores 8 seconds into the period off of a weird turnover by Seamus Donahue that was actually offside on the play. It was reviewed, called a good goal, even though the review did show that it was offside nonetheless. Now here's where it gets really weird. We get to just after the 12-minute mark of period number 2. The Huskies are really struggling to find a way to actually force the middle of the ice at all and get one past Drew Comesso. And what a fortuitous bounce that we have not seen the likes of for a St. Cloud State team in a long time, Nick. It's Nolan Walker pretty much flipping a puck over top of the net, and it ends up on Micah Miller's stick with a wide open net. 1-1 hockey game. Nobody knew where the puck was. I know the boys have been practicing that hidden puck trick since the pod, right? But then we've got Nick Perbix, a carom off of 2 BU defenders to make it 2-1. Jake Wise for Boston University, a minute later on the power play, ties the game at 2. And Easton Brodzinski, less than a minute later after that, makes it 3-2 entering the third period. Moving into the third period here, Nick, we have a 5-minute major now on Chase Brand for head contact 3 minutes into the period that sends him off of the ice. And Yami Kranola earns a shorthanded breakaway and ensuing penalty shot on which he scores on to make it 4-2. A minute after that, we've got a broken pane of glass from a body check down that slows play down for a little bit. And then you end up with Easton Brodzinski scoring his second goal of the game off of a face-off that they had to review for kicking. And then Vieti Vatanen scores a redirect with 5 minutes left in the game, and an ice repair with 4.5 minutes left to cap off what a weird and wild finish between St. Cloud State and Boston University. The box score does read St. Cloud State 0 for 2 on the power play, BU 1 for 4, shots 38-36 in favor of our St. Cloud State Huskies. Nick, catching bits and pieces of this game here because it was just kind of all over the place as far as what was going on, turning what should have been an hour and a half game into it, almost 3-hour game. What is something that really stood out for you with this St. Cloud State group, especially the fact that they gave up the first goal of this hockey game?
Well, let's rewind it back a little bit further than that, right, Noah? You talk about important starts. You I think mentioned it in the preview that we did that was going to be an important piece, and they had one hell of a start. Now, the thing that concerned me, and I think what concerns former players when you're watching, these is when you're getting great chances that the Huskies were getting, that you weren't getting those bounces. It's easy to get frustrated, and it's easy to sort of try to, almost start cheating and trying to do a little bit too much with the puck. And there's one thing that we've seen, especially in these last couple of weeks with this Husky squad, is that they don't seem to be rattled by that. And I think that's super important. And again, like you mentioned, you go down 1-0, and it just, again, it's a playoff game, right? You have to ride the ebbs and flows. St. Cloud responds. They go up 2-1. BU comes right back to make it 2-2. And then, you don't want to say it was a turning point in the game, but then I think honestly what probably drives that nail in the coffin is, that shootout goal by Crandall to make it 4-2. Now, again, you and I both know as hockey guys, the 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey. But then Easton Brodzinski with what looked to be at this point the perpetual nail in the coffin and go up by 3. Veti gets on the score sheet, which I think is great news for the Huskies, 6-2. And with the ice conditions, with the penalties, you found a way just to make things happen. You find a way to get the W. And especially for the senior group, Fitzgerald and you could even put Brendan Bushy, Spencer Meyer, those that, unfortunately have been through some of those not so great moments, especially going back to AIC. Maybe some demons lifted now. The question is now, as great as this is, Noah, can we now put it behind it? It means nothing now. Yep. And you're going to go into a BC team that's even more talented and is going to be rested quite a bit. So either way, it's a great playoff win for this squad. Unfortunately, at this point, it's all done and over with.
Yeah, 43 faceoff wins for the St. Cloud State Huskies, 18 out of 21 for Will Hammer tonight. We talked about that in the intro as well on our show on Wednesday about how important faceoffs were going to be. And he's a guy, you look at this group, they have such a good balance of guys like that. They're not going to maybe jump on the score sheet, but they're guys that, especially in defensive and difficult situations, Brett Larson trusts them out there. And he's, again, not afraid to roll 4 lines with this group. And you saw it with St. Cloud State, as you had alluded to, when BU goes up 1-0, I think the tendency, especially because St. Cloud was the better team in that first period, is to really kind of have that panic level a little bit. And I think it's even easier to panic as a fan than it is as a player, because as a fan, you have zero control over what's going on. As a player, you sometimes almost don't even notice. I mean, you're just kind of getting ready for the next shift. And the Huskies did a really nice job of responding, got an absolute gift of a goal for Micah Miller. I mean, that was just one of the weirder goals I think I've ever seen. But then you claw your way to 3-2. You earn that right to win a period and win a hockey game, essentially, in period number 3. And St. Cloud to essentially pick Chase Brand up during that major penalty, and not only do that, but find a way to pot a couple of goals and just really put the nail in the coffin and not give a team any life. Nick, it's been a long time, even this season, that we've seen a St. Cloud State team that had that killer mentality in the third period to really put their foot on another team's neck and take the victory there. So a lot of things you really have to like for the St. Cloud State group, but it is not going to get any easier. Staying with the Boston theme here, moving from Boston University to Boston College, you'll see the graphic change on your screen, Nick. I've always wanted to do this, so you'll see the graphic change on your screen right now. But we preview the upcoming matchup against the Boston College Eagles, the number 2 team in the country, Jerry York at the helm. And boy, is this a deadly, deadly hockey team. A lot of high-powered weapons. One of the best, if not the best, goaltenders in the NCAA. Nick, you mentioned about St. Cloud State having to have a short memory. It was a weird, wild, fluky, and emotional win for this St. Cloud group against BU. How do they put it behind them? Because they have to. How do they keep even keel? And what is going to be the key to victory against this BC club?
Well, again, I think first of all, as we just mentioned it, you have to, enjoy this for all of 5 minutes. And then you have to honestly be not completely satisfied, right? It's like having that steak dinner where you leave room for dessert, because it's not that what you just ate was good, but you're like, I want more, right? You have to want more. And for St. Cloud, and again, I alluded this to it earlier, but you wonder if for the leadership group in this, now mind you, the underclassmen, the sophomores, and especially the freshmen, they weren't in Fargo to, on a very dangerous and talented team that, probably looked at that and went, we should have had a much better performance and we should not have only had a 1-game tournament. Now the Souls demons have been exercised. Could that inject a little bit more energy, or do you put more pressure on yourself? So you have to, you just have to continue to just be hungry for more. And I think, again, we saw that in this third period, something that you got to taste with. Again, we go back to North Dakota and the NCHC championship. They had the lead going into the third. And unfortunately, when you take your foot off the gas, against any team now in this tournament, it's going to come back and haunt you. So probably a lesson learned here in St. Cloud, showing again, it has the ability, and I should say the will probably, to put the proverbial knife into the back and stab it hard. You just have to take, when you smell blood, you have to go in and go for the kill. For BC, again, it's a different animal. As you mentioned, it's a very dangerous, talented, well-coached, structured team. And I do think in this matchup, you're going to see a little bit more of that West Coast style than you saw with BU was a little bit more of that true East Coast style. Yes, BC can play with possession. They can play with speed. They have a lot of skill, but they're also not afraid to get down and dirty and go in front of the net, take body, position in front. They're not afraid to also give out and give checks. So, and again, they're rested. Now, one thing that I think for between you and I'll pose this question to you is, it's a give take in that, right? So St. Cloud, again, they're feeling good. They got to win, but you're going to be tired. There's going to be guys that maybe are playing banged up. For BC, this can be the first, are they going to be rusty? Are they going to be able to come ready to play with Jerry York at the helm? There's no question in my mind. This team's going to be ready to go. But again, you have to look at it as, they got their legs under them. And I think St. Cloud, again, a big start's going to be crucial for them, but it's going to be a battle. And, what you thought was hard tonight, it's going to be just as hard, if not twice as hard tomorrow in tomorrow's matchup.
Yeah, I was just about to preach about the starts. We talk about how important it's going to be, but especially against a team they haven't played in 11 days, right? So, yes, they're going to be a good hockey team. You've got Minnesota Wild prospect Matthew Boldy, a first rounder there. You've got Newhook on that roster, Spencer Knight, in goal for that group. This is not going to be an easy test for St. Cloud State, but like you mentioned, you have to take the positives from today, which will be yesterday, on tomorrow, and get the job done. Easton Brodzinski is searching for, he hit the 99-point mark today. He's searching for number 100 tomorrow. It's about keeping that train rolling. David Rennick was phenomenal tonight. Again, he's had a very good month of March, and he's continued to keep the train rolling. And you've got to be impressed with that. And that's got to build confidence. When you have confidence in your back end, your goaltenders, that just exudes throughout your lineup. And we saw the forwards really not get frustrated and play and stick to their identity today. You mentioned a little bit too in the third period, putting the nail in the coffin, but also when they kept panning the camera to the St. Cloud State bench, you saw this calm composure. You saw guys smiling. You saw guys that were relaxed and not tensed in their body positioning. And yes, they had the lead at that point, but it was a hard-earned lead. And, it kind of goes back to two-time national champion Minnesota Duluth. How do they play when they're down by one, up by one? They're even keel. The emotion doesn't change. And I think Brett Larson, Nick Oliver, and Dave Shayak have really found a way to get some buy-in from this group. Boys, we're only 3 wins away from the ultimate title here. And this St. Cloud State group has a serious potential to be the second Huskies team to punch their ticket to the Frozen Four in school history. So I'm really excited for it. It should be a very good matchup. Puck drop, I believe, 4:30 p.m. Central Time here, 5:30 p.m. Eastern out in Albany, New York. Nick, anything else to add for this St. Cloud State Huskies team as we get ready for Boston College?
I think if you are the team and you're listening to this podcast, which we know a lot of them do, again, have your 5 minutes of celebrating because you definitely have earned that right. But then going back and you got to be hungry still. Again, you talk about Matt Boldy, Nikita Nesterenko, Jack McBain. There's 3 Minnesota Wild draft picks in the top 4 of their scoring. And you're also going to have a very tough goaltender, a gold medal winning goaltender in Spencer Knight that will likely be in between the pipes. But these guys are not unbeatable. These guys have flaws. These guys have weaknesses, but I don't care how good your goaltender is. I think even more important in this matchup, if you can take his eyes away and really make in front of his net and his crease just a crap show, I hate to say it, you can beat goaltenders. And I think we saw a little bit of hesitation this game to try to really kind of crowd that creaser of the opposing netminder. I think that's going to be the key in this hockey game. If you can really make Spencer's Knight's vision really tough, if you can get that second, third chance rebounds opportunities, that's going to win. It's going to be a greasier game. Again, this team can do it. We saw it. We saw it against Duluth. And again, like you mentioned, I think this team, with just the way that they can roll forward lines, how we have seen now, this team can win in different ways, right? They can win with skill. They can win with a little bit of grit. And I think with David Rennick probably playing, honestly, some of the best hockey we've seen him play in quite some time consistently, this team is dangerous. And you're going to go up against another good, dangerous team. I cannot wait for this battle. I know it's going to be quite the show to watch. And you just hope that St. Cloud State can just continue to have confidence in what they can do. Don't panic if they get down. Stay true to your structure. And I do think that this team has a really good chance to punch their ticket out to Pittsburgh for the Frozen Four.
St. Cloud State on Sunday, March 28th, with their opportunity to earn one more victory and continue that road in the NCAA tournament. We'll have it all for you here at the Huskies Warming House Podcast.